So John Su. Now I know John Su for many years, and he have had many different backgrounds and careers over the years. But let me tell you what he's up to recently and what he's focusing on now. So John Su, the co-founder with his partner Adrian Beaverbones of the Ochies Band in Alberta. They're really the owners of the Indigenous Innovations. They help First Nation people in Vancouver and Edmonton with overcoming barriers to healthcare. Their corporate mission is to positively impact the First Nations people and how they are treated and experience the medical system in Canada. Now, with that brief and very succinct introduction, help me, folks, in welcoming our guest today, John Su, all the way from Vancouver. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Dune. How are you doing?
I am well. So how's the weather over there in BC? I'm guessing it's possibly cloudy?
Not today. Usually it's cloudy, but today it's beautiful. It's going to be a high of 28. Hence, I'm dressed down for the weather.
Nice. That's great. Tell us, my friend, you've been in Vancouver how long, living there, kind of working there full time and whatnot? It's been a few years, hey?
Yeah, I've been here. This will be my 5th year. Originally from Edmonton, and then I moved out to Calgary probably about 8 years ago, and then I've been in Vancouver for the last 5. So I've been kind of doing the traveling thing, exploring Canada and living in different places.
Yeah, well, that's cool. So tell us, you have many different careers prior to your current focus. As in the introduction there, that's a little bit of a departure from what you've been focusing on prior to that. You had a career in real estate and all the different things. Tell us a little bit about your career journey and what culminated in you deciding to get into the current focus that you are, John.
So originally, when I was about 25, I sold real estate investments.
Mm-hmm.
And then doing real estate investments for about 5 years, I actually became a full-time realtor. So I've been a realtor, still I'm licensed, but I'm probably 6 months away from finishing real estate. I've been a realtor probably for a good 10 to 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And just being now helping First Nations with healthcare is totally unrelated. But the skill sets that I've gotten from real estate really helped me a lot in this industry. Because when you think about what realtors do, is they make deals happen between contradicting opinions. Because in real estate, the buyers want the lowest price and the sellers want the highest price.
Yeah.
And really, when the deal falls apart, and if it's two people who are actually motivated, it's the realtor's fault.
Yeah.
And coming into this industry, which is highly emotionally charged because of the history of Indigenous people in Canada,
mm-hmm.
and kind of how they've been treated and kind of their history.
Yeah.
There's a lot of intergenerational trauma. So now working in the medical fields, I actually don't deal with anything medical. I'm the one who puts the client, the Indigenous client, together with the medical system that hasn't been Indigenous friendly. So when I talk about Indigenous friendly, the genius of any system or any business is that it's user friendly. Whoever your client base is that it's user friendly. If it's not user friendly, it's not a good interface to use.
Right.
And the biggest challenge that I realize that our clients have is using the system.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If in the medical system, there's a lot of paperwork, a lot of process, a lot of, order, where a lot of our clients aren't used to that system. So often, it's human nature. When you frustrated by something, don't know how to use something, or have been ill-treated, in that system, you're just going to stop using it.
Right.
So just imagine, if this is your health, this is healthcare, and because of your experience, you stop using it.
Yeah. I hear you. Being an immigrant, I aware of some of the challenges. When I first came to Canada, and the challenges I had with again the language, the culture, everything else like that, and I know this is quite different, but in some ways I can appreciate the idea of when you don't know the system, you can't really use the system in an effective way, is what you're saying.
Yeah, 100%. That's been, I guess, generations of mistreatment, misunderstanding, miscommunication is probably the core issue if we want to point fingers at parties, because every problem is not a result of one party. It's a result of multiple interactions by both parties.
Right.
And it's often, if not always, a result of ineffective or inaccurate communication.
Right. Would you refer to yourself as a bit of an advocate for that group?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting model. When I tell people about it, people would say, "Wow, that's quite interesting. I've never heard of it." So what I do is I bring our clients, the Indigenous clients, to the healthcare provider. So I'm the in-between guy, and I'm basically an advocate for the client. But the people who pay my bills are the people that, the places that I refer them.
I see.
Right. So I'll refer to a business, and I'm essentially a Google ad. I create the relationship with the community and I direct the traffic.
Right. Right. So you're connecting people who otherwise may not be doing services / business / care for one another because of all the considerations you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, exactly. It's that barrier that stops you from using things.
I see.
What we do is we make it so simple. We do all the paperwork. We keep the words down to a minimum. It's just very simple in terms of how we service our clients. We ask them, "What do you need help with?" And let us get back to you to see if we can help you with that.
Yeah. There must be a story behind how you even got the idea of doing this. I love to hear the backstory behind what caused you to go in this direction, my friend.
So since, as weird as it sounds, the story's quite simple. I was just there with my partner, Adrian, and we were sitting around talking, and we were talking about how his family, they can't get medical equipment. And this was before I had any knowledge about, First Nations or healthcare or anything. And to me, common knowledge is, Indigenous people or First Nations have their healthcare stuff covered, right? Like they have their education, the medical, all covered by the government. So I thought to I said to my partner, "What do you mean he doesn't know how to get it? You fill out the paperwork, you go see the doctor, you get prescription, and you get it for free. It's all paid for by the government."
Right.
And his reply was, "Me and you know that, but most of my family and a lot of his First Nation people don't know that. They don't know what paperwork to fill out, who to see, who can they trust, who's welcoming them, who's not labeling them as drug addicts or alcoholics." Right?
Yeah.
So for me and you, it's like, no problem. What paper, if it was for Asian people, right? No problem. We know how to do the system. We're familiar with that system here. We know how to do that, all of that. That's no problem. But for, Indigenous or First Nation clients, they don't know. Right. They're not familiar with that.
Right. So it sounds like your relationship with your friend there is that the key part in you starting this. You mentioned Adrian Beaverbones, I presume that you when you said Adrian. So again, in his role, he's very close to, and of course, leading that community in his capacity there. And through his experience, he actually expressed to you a need that you didn't even realize existed.
Yes, 100%. If I were to make it, boil down to what are we? What do we do? We're essentially a high-end customer service.
Right.
Right. We're the salesperson that's calling you, but you actually want our call, as opposed to the cold caller who won't leave you alone.
Right. So that there's just an unmet need based on the gap in communication, perceptions, attitude, whatever have you. You can mix all of those things in, and that create a gap. And you and Adrian are working to close that gap as a service to not only the the community of Indigenous people, but also the service providers who otherwise would not be serving those people.
Yes, 100%. We basically are that bridge, that contact with an unserviced population.
Yeah.
Indigenous people are one of the most untapped, unserviced groups of people. Right? The weird thing when I finally started getting into business is I started to get to know more about the culture, and it's a very sad thing to know that we've been in their land. I've been here 41 years, to be here in their land, yet to know very little about their culture or their people. And the only experience that I've had of Indigenous people are in Chinatown. Right, growing up as a kid, and they were the homeless people, they were the people on drugs. It was all of the, how would you say, the lower income population. So that's all I knew of Indigenous people. Right, and to see their culture now here in Vancouver, to see the beauty of the people, their relationships, it makes me quite sad that we've lived and enjoyed their lands without actually knowing the people. It's like going to China, but not even meeting any Chinese people. Like, I saw a few Chinese people, and then you go start to talk about McDonald's or Starbucks.
Yeah, I hear you.
So it's now that I've kind of gone out, met the people, discovered the industry. I would say it's not a steep learning curve. The steepest learning curve is probably understanding, my clients and how they operate, and understanding and creating systems that work for them. I think was the most challenging thing.
Yeah. That is such an interesting journey and story that you're sharing, because from what I know of you, you were always been deep in again, focus on relationships and solving problems and negotiating and removing roadblocks and all of that. So all of that is very much transferable into there. But it is quite surprising to me that you are fully committed all of your time and energy into this this journey that was, if you were to ask yourself 5 years ago, let's say 10 years ago, if you could predict what you'd be spending time on today, probably your prediction would not be accurate. Would that be fair to say? A bit of a surprise to you?
Oh yeah, it's a total 180. Like, who would ever imagine an Asian person who's a realtor all of a sudden is in basically social enterprise now?
Right. So tell me, I want to dig a bit deeper. I know, through your friend Adrian and your relationship with him and what you see and what you hear, that's a big part of what feed into your decision there. But maybe share something else that may be also contributing to that moment in time where you say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give it my full kind of focus and attention and energy. Was there another factor, my friend?
Yeah, the bigger factor didn't actually surface. Like the first factor, and probably because I'm Asian and I'm a realtor, is this is a great business opportunity. Right. You can make a lot of money helping people get access to healthcare benefits.
Right.
What people may or may not know is First Nations people, they have what they call a status number. So your status number is basically like a credit card for healthcare.
Right.
Right. So they have basically a credit card for healthcare. There's a demand to get proper service. I thought this will be a huge moneymaker, which it definitely is. If you look at healthcare and the amount of money that is going through Indigenous healthcare, it is a lot of money. It's a stupid amount of money.
Yeah.
But once I started to get to meet the people, hear their stories, discover about the reasons that they have these challenges, it's like that day you realize, and I'm sure every person has this deep down inside, everyone has a dream that they're going to make a major impact in the world. And when I got to dig deeper, to talk to the people, meet the stories, hear the stories, see the problems that I could help them solve with Adrian, this is Indigenous throughout Canada. And I saw it not as a great moneymaker. It was more the opportunity to impact a large population of people throughout this entire country. And you hear a lot of people talk about the fear of living your dreams. To me, I was never fearful of that or in awe of it. It was just more of, how could I not do this? How could I not commit my life to helping a large group of Indigenous people in Canada?
Right. You found your new mission, and you found your new, really, I'm gonna say, guidance system. All of those skills that you've had in the kind of built up in your previous career at real estate and real estate investment and realtor and all of that. You found a new way that tug at your heartstring a little bit. Well, quite a bit more, significantly more. Dare I say, this could be your legacy. We all are here for a limited amount of days and months and years. When it's our time to go, I can definitely see this as your legacy. All the stuff that you've done in real estate is fine, and you made some good income and you learned some good skills, but this is a very much a transformational step for you, sounds like.
Yeah, 100%. I've done many things in my life, had many experiences, but this is the only thing that I've ever felt so strongly about, that this is the last thing I'm going to do. I will die helping First Nations people. I was joking with my girlfriend, I love my work. I like to do it. Do I love all aspects of it? Of course not. But majority, the mission to help and to create change and to, how to say, create structures to help the culture, because healthcare is just one of the things that I want to do. It's like the business is what's bringing in the money. It's what's going to change a lot of things for the culture. But the bigger inspired mission that I kind of realized as a result of being in the business is First Nations, Indigenous people are putting so much money into the healthcare system. And then I asked myself, the benefactors, these medical businesses, they are all owned by non-Indigenous people. And I asked myself, what is the reason for that? That there's very few, if none, no Indigenous business owners into this mini economy, basically.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, why not? Why not do what I call the ultimate Canadian thing, and it's collaborate and help each other. So the whole goal is, what I want to do is start this business of helping, creating this mini medical system, but more importantly, find Indigenous partners to help them own some of these businesses, to take the money that their people are already putting into the medical system and put it back into their own community, for them to set up the businesses and to become partners with us, to become partners with the people that I work with, have the pharmacists, the doctors, the dentists, to mentor the First Nations people to run the business properly. Because if you actually look at our own journey, the Vietnamese journey from Vietnam to Canada, it always, how did our culture build a life for itself in Canada? It's because we worked together. We supported each other, and through wealth, we created opportunity, role models, and institutions and structures for our culture to thrive. Right now in Canada, First Nations has access to the most amount of resources over and above any culture in Canada. So why not partner with other fellow Canadians to help them maximize and utilize that? Right?
You use the word utilization, which I want to sort of pause on for a bit. It seems to me like, like you said, there was a lot of money going into the system, and yet the utilization is not maximized in a way that you would like to see. With your new understanding that you now have, you're working to make sure that the community there is utilizing the funds in a productive way, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and it's not even utilizing in a productive way. It's more of taking back and empowering their own culture. Right. Because if the money, how do we say, wealth is created not by how much you make. It's created by how much you save. Right. Because you can make $1 million, but if you're spending $1.5 million, you ain't wealthy. Right. So that's the whole thing, is I want to be part of this, where we can change the perception of other Canadians about First Nations.
Yeah. So in other words, you are quickly moving or expanding your vision or from really the physical healthcare to now maybe go into some of the emotional healthcare, psychological health, basically the whole culture, the whole really, as you mentioned, role model and various things. You want to be part of that solution in a much broader way than just healthcare services, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about the people and empowering your own people and educating, your partners to work together.
Right, right. I know, if I could go back, I know previously I've seen lots of conversations that you post at one time or another, and you talk about, let's say your video challenge that you had a few years back, if you recall, when you had a video I forgot if it was every week or every few days or whatever. What I got out of that was you are quite into really high performance and kind of motivation and really just positive thinking and those kinds of things and kind of get it done and mover and shaker, if you will. And so sounds like you are applying all of those passions that you have into this very focus area now that you are very clear with.
Yeah, 100%. Like, one of the weird things is, and very few people know this about me, I was always a 53% student. I remember going to university, putting in 150% and leaving with a 53% mark. If you want to talk about uninspiring, that's very uninspiring. And one day I stumbled upon a self-development course, about positivity, which I don't believe in anymore. But positivity and that whole self-development industry was fascinating to me. For the astute learner, when you find something that you're truly interested in the first time, because I used to think school was bullshit. Like, this is a waste of my time. I'm not interested. I would always fall asleep in class. And it wasn't because I was stupid or that I couldn't learn. It's I didn't see the value in what I learned. But the moment that I found something that I really was interested in, like self-development, for me, I became the best student. And it was just one of those things of, my mark said I'm not very intelligent, but deep down inside I knew that wasn't true, and I just had to keep going and find that thing. And then when I finally found that, I never stopped picking it up. Like stuff like philosophy. Like, to be completely honest, I probably have an equivalent to a PhD in spirituality and philosophy.
Right.
Because I've been studying it for the last 15 years. And I'm on the internet all the time, going into spirituality groups and chat groups and self-development groups. And I have yet to find even a handful of people who kind of are at the level of knowledge that I've studied.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, you studied it deep enough to, in fact, see the other side, the flip side of all the positive and inspirational stuff. I know I've read some of your stuff where you talk about really, in order to have the good stuff, the awesome stuff, you also must recognize the opposite of that and account for that and acknowledge that and accept that. Tell us a bit more about your perspective on that, because I think it's an important perspective to kind of say, the world is the way it is. Yeah, you can choose to see it in a positive light, but you should also be aware of the flip side of that. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so the whole teaching stemmed from one mentor teacher that I followed a lot, and I only follow two teachers and mentors. One of them, the philosophical spiritual one, is John DeMartini. He by far is the most knowledgeable speaker that I've ever met. And
I've heard him his keynote at a CAPS convention, a speakers convention, a few years ago, and he just everybody was moved, and everybody wanted to more. Nobody in the room can get enough of of him. So he was very awesome, fantastic.
Yeah, he's beyond a great speaker. The depth of his knowledge, it's mind blowing. And his whole theory is this: that how you see things, there's always going to be a positive and negative side to everything. And when you only see the positive, which is the positive thinking movement, you are blind to the negative side. So you only see things as you want to see it. But the reality of what you see or life is, life has positive and negative. And when you do not acknowledge the negative, it's like you're disconnected from half of life. You are unconscious to half of life. So when you see a lot of these positive movement people, oh, get rid of the haters, get rid of the negative people, they are basically repressing half of life.
Right.
When you understand it from DeMartini's point of view, you embrace and are grateful for all of life. You are grateful for your haters. You are grateful for the bad things that happen, because you also see the counterbalance of the bad things. Right? Through pain, you build resilience. Through, like what I believe is, the more haters you have, that's really a reflection of how much you believe in yourself. Because I always say, if your hater is powerful enough to stop you in your tracks on your inspired mission, then it probably means that you weren't as inspired as you thought you were, nor did you believe in yourself as much as you thought you did. And they are there to remind you of an ugly truth you don't want to face in yourself. Right?
Yeah.
Because when you look at positivity or negativity, it's a half understanding of the truth. Like a good thing that John always speaks about is love is truth, and it's not the "I love you" long time love. It's the love you have for a child. You know that there's good about them, and you know that there's bad about them, but you are grateful and you accept them as they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's when you think something's all good or you think something's all bad, you don't see it for what it is. You see a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I fully understand and appreciate what you're saying, and perhaps you could compare and contrast that what you've been saying to the concept of. I don't know too much about it, but in the Chinese culture, there's a whole lot about yin and yang. You probably know a lot more about that. Tell us how that comes about, how it aligns with that kind of thinking.
Yeah. So basically, yin and yang, in the simplest way, is it's I guess you could say black or white. We'll just say uh, yang is black and yin is white. So
Okay.
basically, think of white as good and black as negative.
Okay.
It's how to say, it's a balancing force. So for example, when you meet somebody and you're just like, oh my god, they're so amazing, they're smart, this, you're just totally infatuated with them. All you see is yin. And in real life, not theoretical life, whenever you see someone and put them up on a pedestal, they always fall from heaven, because
Right.
no one is ever that good or that amazing. Everyone's got a downside to them, and often the perception dynamic of you seeing them all good brings forth to the same magnitude. Like, say for example, if you thought they were a 10 out of 10, anything negative or ugly about them will also be a negative 10. And then that's what life brings. There's that magnetic force of, the more positive you think something is, the more negative perception is going to come to counterbalance your perception of that item or event. Right? And the more balanced you are, there's less how to say, volatility in the perception of things.
Right.
Right?
I
So,
hear
so
you.
think of it as when people are fearful, oh my god, this is so scary, and then all of a sudden when you face your fear and you're like, hey, that wasn't that bad. Right? It's
Yeah.
never usually as bad as you thought it was, and it's never usually as good as you thought it was. And
Right.
that's kind of the maturing of things, right? A lot of naive people think, oh, life is all good, and then they meet some really nasty people, not to do bad things to them, but to create balance in their perception of life.
Right. Right. I hear you. Yeah. You know, in some ways, it is. I know it's different, but it's almost like energy. There's no such thing as energy being lost per se. Energy gets converted to another energy, and there's push and there's pull. There's all kinds of different kind of things. But really, I guess to sum it up, it seems to me like over the years you have kind of did all three of them. In fact, what I mean by that is at one point in your life and your career, you were probably a little bit cynical, let's say, a little bit more maybe on the negative side, and then you got into this positive side, and you went through that journey, and that was awesome self-development and cranked up on positivity, and then now you're landing in the last little while on really a balanced picture of both of those. And I know you often talk about the benefits of what is seemingly bad.
Yes, yes. So as weird as it sounds, all my life I was never very overly positive or overly negative. I was always very self self aware and very honest with myself.
Mm-hmm.
So like one thing I realized when I was a young kid, I remember standing there in front of the mirror, and I just took a look in the mirror. I'm like, shit, you ain't got a pretty face. So hopefully God blesses me with some mad charm and hopefully a bunch of money, because my looks ain't gonna get me no women. And it was just an honest thing, I'm 5'5", and I'm not skinny, I'm not rich,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not buff, but I have the gift of the gab. I am excellent with that. That is, if I had to save my family's life, I would bet it on that skill, that I could convince the devil to release my family.
Yeah. That's thank you for sharing that. I'm going to pause on there for a moment. Negotiation is one of the most important skills in life. We negotiate more often than we realize, right? Now, so when it comes to somebody who has recognized the power of negotiation and frankly be able to see it as not just a kind of slimy negotiation thing, but really a problem solving as a human relation kind of perspective and whatnot. Sounds like you have taken that skill set into your current work, really navigating and negotiating and problem solving with a huge sort of, you mentioned earlier, emotional kind of content that goes with the context.
Yeah, 100%. And it's one of those things where most people who don't negotiate every day, they see negotiation as me against you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's already, how do you say, framing it in a non-conducive way for a discussion. Like how I see real estate is, it's not a negotiation. It's a discussion and an evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have two parties who are committed to selling real estate or buying real estate? If we do, then we can bring this together. If one party's not serious, it doesn't matter how good you are. You cannot bring two parties together if one is not committed to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole thing is, when you realize and say, well, let's focus on, what are the reasons we're here? We're here to buy and sell real estate. So how do we bridge two contradicting opinions and bring them to a middle ground? And it's that whole thing of saying, what's reasonable? And be objective about it, because what's reasonable is a subjective criteria. But when you look at real estate prices to say, here's the price range of things selling, here's the types of real estate that are comparable, then you take that reasonability and then you objectify it to say, here's what we can play within a reasonable ground. Right? And we just take the emotion out of the drama. Oh, he's trying to rip me off, or oh, he's trying to steal my property. We take that drama out of the real estate deal and say, let's look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Right? Let's not voice opinions, and let's look at the numbers and let's try to fall in between here.
Yeah. I mean, you did not mention the term, but I'm sure it's a key part of it. And that is in all of that, you have to create trust, right? So once you create the trust between the various parties, then you're going to be going somewhere. But if there's just distrust, you have to find ways to kind of disarm that a little bit.
Yeah, when there's distrust, usually it's between the realtor and the client. That's when we just say it's probably not a good fit.
Right.
Where you as a professional say, for whatever reason you don't trust me, I don't think we should work together. Right? As opposed to somebody who's maybe less seasoned would try to make it happen no matter what.
Yeah.
Which I think is just pushing a rock up the hill.
Yeah. Maybe I'd love to hear from you, your perspective on what are the key ingredients in sort of trust, and how does one professional try to increase trust in somebody whether it's a client or potential client, or in all of your work, you must have discovered some insights, and your studies as well, insights into trust and how to build it, and how to guard against it being breaking down.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah.
So I think the key thing with trust is just coming together and being honest with how you present yourself. The number one thing is, most of the world is always kind of consumed with, I want you to think this is who I am, where they may not necessarily be that. And people feel that. They feel like you're trying to do something, or you're trying to pull something on me.
Right.
And some people are okay with it. Some people see right through it.
Right.
And it's one of those things where you can kind of come as you, and if you don't have that relationship, there is no business to be had.
Yeah. I want to bring it out. I think I'm hearing it in between the words there. I think I'm hearing that you want to bring the positive and negative of your background and experience, so that you are more real, versus putting your best foot forward in all aspects, where they look at somebody and they say, well, that's just a bit too perfect, and I wonder if this person is real, and what are they hiding, whatnot. Sounds like that's what you're saying, is that you want to bring your whole self to the relationship.
Yeah, it's how we say, when you're honest and how you present yourself, people will want to work with you. Right? And it's more based on a feeling than what you say, because I've never worked with a client or realized that would work if I didn't feel like we were connected at some point. So It's always that first laugh you have together. When you kind of sit there, you got to, I'm a realtor, you got to be professional, present yourself. But until we have that first laugh together, and to me, that's like a signal. There's an establishment of a relationship of some sort. But before that, if it's just straight talking, and you're like, whoa, that was kind of tough.
In other words, you want to have that human connection, not the intellectual connection, but the human connection, right? Whether it's a laugh, whether it's sharing a story that seemingly is unrelated or off topic, or maybe personal in some cases, that's where people connect, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I've realized just being who you are is that magic recipe. As simple as that sounds, that is far more effective than any sales course, than any, speaking course, anything. To come authentically builds trust instantly.
Yeah. So it's not new information, but I guess the question is, how many people practice it in a way that makes sense, right?
And here's the crazy thing: is it's not something to be practiced. Because that's like me asking you, hey, Dune, have you practiced being Dune? And you're like, what do you mean? I am Dune.
When I say practice, I mean, acting on it. I don't mean practicing. I mean, like how many of them actually do it? How many of them? So I think that, the interesting thing whenever it comes to personal development, a thing that comes to mind is that the stuff that we are learning is not new. The question is, does it change our behavior, right? So it sounds like along the way, you have found that, you kind of learn those lessons early on, and just kind of don't try to fake it. Don't try to make it more complicated than it is. Don't try to make it, quote unquote, polished and professional beyond where it's necessary and whatnot. Again, just kind of, I know you have some humility when it comes to, kind of talking about yourself, and some of the communications I see on social media. You're very much tapped into this holistic kind of person, and even to the point of using terms and concepts that other people might say, well, he's not necessarily politically correct, or things like that. Now, I bring that out because I want to dig into that part of your thinking, in terms of what are your thoughts on this political correctness and all of these things that we've been dealing with.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I realized at a really young age is I'm not for everyone. I'm quite abrasive. but at least one thing you can always count on me for is I'm always honest. And whenever I do business with people, I say to them, you never have to worry about me doing stuff behind your back.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, that's good. I'm like, would you like to know why? And they're like, why? And it's like, because I have the audacity that if I'm going to screw you, I'll actually do it to your face. And they're like, I don't know if I like that. But there's that sense of, I'm honest with what I say. If I promise it, I'll do it. And I don't promise until I've thought it through.
Right.
So I very seldomly promise things. And that's I'm like, yeah, sure, I can get it done.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just that reliability and the consistency, and more self-acceptance, because a lot of the things that I say probably would be considered controversial, not acceptable by society standards.
Yeah.
Like I believe, in order for great things to happen, much suffering is required.
Right.
It's not a choice. It's not a mindset. To accomplish great things, and if you look at the people who have done great things, they have suffered immensely, more than most people can stand.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the price you pay. And I always compare that to, the pressure of life, the pressure of performance, the pressure of everything is what turns coal into diamonds.
Right. Right.
And you can't learn that in a book. You cannot role model that. You have to experience it. Yeah. That's the reason. One thing I realized after doing self-development for a really long time, there is no right way to do anything, and the best way is really doing everything the wrong way, because when you discover all the ways that don't work, it magically you boil away all the noise, the drama, to find out what actually works.
Yeah. Let me do a bit of a sidetrack to get onto your Facebook page there with Indigenous Innovations, YVR is what it's called. Now, while I'm there, I know that's where you've started. Do you have vision of working and serving beyond the Vancouver and Edmonton area, John?
Yeah.
Cool. Now tell us about this site here.
So right now, Canada. We're going to take this across the prairies, right all the way east, wherever there is large populations of Indigenous people.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to take this right across Canada.
Right. So hopefully you can see the screen that I'm about to bring in here, and I'm just going to take my video out so we can reserve some space for that. So this kind of touch on some of the stuff that you guys work on over there, and tell us about your location. I see it's is it downtown? You're not too far from downtown.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious if you think about the kind of if you think about how many people in the Vancouver or British Columbia, what kind of numbers might you have in mind that you don't mind sharing? What kind of population? Do you have those numbers top of mind?
I don't know the population, but our area is a high concentration of Indigenous people.
Right.
High concentration of socially challenged. Probably the worst drug area in Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
But the weird thing is, it's not dangerous down here like a lot of people think.
Right.
It's safe. It's just a very different world that most people.
So people can certainly go there and
are not used.
Yeah, your sound is cutting in and out a little bit. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, cool. So, if you want me to play a video or click on anything, I'd be happy to do that. But I just want to make sure that viewers are aware of this site here. It's Facebook/Indigenous, Innov, INNOV, like innovation, but shortened to Innov, YVR. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here so that people can check it out later on. Hopefully I got that correct. All right, so I got it on there. So this is, I'm just curious, as you kind of work on this, do you work kind of day, night, weekend and whatnot? How is your work-life balance being on something that's relatively new and encompassing? Are you able to manage that reasonably, my friend? Did you hear that, John? Oh, I think John you might need to come back in there, John. Maybe hit refresh, reload.
And if I did,
Your audio has gotten worse in the last minute or two, John. So let me just come back in here. Can you see and hear me? Oh, okay. So John will come right back. He knows to come right back here with his connection. And so what a surprise turn of career development for John. And I fully understand his thinking and his heart in this. And this they're gonna write a book about this journey that you're on, my friend. This is book worthy. Like the turn that you made in your career, in your focus, in your life's work is very commendable. Very commendable. Can you hear me still? Okay. Can you hit refresh, John? Hit refresh or reload, and let's see. So hopefully John will be able to come back in with good audio to continue our conversation here. In all the times I've known John, he's always been really what I'm going to call high level of street smart and street cred, if you will. Lots of kind of practical, hands-on, and really no nonsense approach to life and to business and to work. And yeah, so it's really a pleasure to see this interesting development where he sees this as his really life's work here, that he's going to end his working days doing this particular mission, if you will. And so let me just see if John is just in the green room there. I don't see John yet, so we'll just hang around here and wait to have him come back and join us. I'll just go ahead and bring this in here and just take a quick look here while John tries to come back in. Look at that, some of the beautiful and wonderful art there that he gets to hang around with and enjoy. There is a happy looking man there. So I know I'm trying to recall some of the details that when I first met John. Let's see, he's coming back here. Yeah, there you are. Oh, hold on. Yeah, you are coming in.
Yeah, I had to reconnect to the Wi-Fi. Sometimes it's bad here at the office.
Oh yeah, no worries. Technology being what it is, and during COVID time, we're all very familiar with how dependent we are on technology and how it's not always perfect. So I wanted to veer off in the direction of maybe do you have a vision that is kind of clear in your mind about if you had your way, what would the next 5 years look like, or where would you, as an organization that you are creating here and the service to the people in the community, Indigenous people, do you have a sort of a target of where you're heading, or are you just kind of practically heading in the right direction and not having a specific vision per se?
Yeah, so in the next 5 years, I want to have this set up in Vancouver, Surrey, Calgary, Edmonton, and be in I think Saskatchewan is the next province next to Alberta.
Right.
So I envision that in the next 10 years we'll be across Canada, because once
Right.
I've duplicated it in one city, duplication is the easy part. Figuring out how to do things initially is the most difficult part.
Right.
So once you kind of got the winning recipe to duplicate, because the model is based on partnerships and connecting and networking with existing organizations, and just being that central hub of connecting everybody and saying, hey, let's work together, work smarter and not harder, and get way more done. Because one thing I'm starting to see now is that I fill the gaps in services that other associations or medical systems can't do as a result of bureaucracy or political issues.
In other words, you are believing that it needs a third party in the mix.
Not that it needs, but it's that magical ingredient that is not constrained by bureaucracy or politics. And that's a huge thing, especially in the medical field. There's lots of, I truly believe that today's medical system is more based around egos and not getting sued, as opposed to just helping people.
Yeah.
Right. And there's so many things that, that we're doing that help people, but it's not the way that association does it, or that's not the rules, and we don't do it like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So you want to be more kind of customer driven, customer focused, more flexible, more meeting people where they're at, rather than forcing them to go through this stringent defined things, which may be not well understood and well navigated by your intended customers. Now, your video froze again, John. I don't know if you can hit refresh or what that is that's causing. Maybe you come right back on. Hey. So we'll see if John is able to come back, and we'll with the technology being what it is, we'll probably find a way in wrap-up mode here soon. So John, you're back. Thank you.
Yeah.
Technology gremlin at the tail end of this conversation. Yeah. So I was just going to ask you, were there areas that you want to talk about that we haven't gotten to yet, my friend? When I reach out to you and say, hey, John, I'd like to chat with you for an hour and a bit, and I know you have a meeting to go to soon as well, but are there areas that you want to cover that we haven't gone to yet?
Yeah, probably there's one shout out I think that I would like to do, and that's kind of one thing I'm just kind of networking and searching out for is my inspired mission is to help First Nations with healthcare. And I'm looking for partnering individuals who want to make a major impact on the First Nations community in Canada. So if you're a doctor, you're a registered nurse, you're an optometrist, you're a dentist, you're a pharmacy, you're a foot doctor, if you want to, in my opinion, be part of history in helping First Nations, I would love to connect with you.
Yeah, I hear you. So looking for people who want to go on the mission with you and be able to contribute to the evolution of this vision that you have, the evolution of this journey. Yeah,
helping the the First Nations people of this country, and coming together in the most Canadian way. It's collaboration, and partnership.
Because as we know, when any part of our population is not well served, it in the end affects us all, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And kind of how society has done away with it is throw money at it and hope it goes away. If you look at the US, Black Lives Matter is their blemish. If you look at Canada, Indigenous people is our blemish. And just diving deeper into that history, you see that they've been greatly mistreated by the system. And with today's technology and the evolvement of humanity, things like that can't happen anymore. Back in the 80s, you can go missing. Somebody can pay money, have you murdered, and you disappear. Not in today's world, right? Today it's very media driven, very videotaped. You can't get away with stuff like that anymore. And yeah, just kind of studying some of the Indigenous history in the Canadian government. Yeah, they really got the short end of the stick, and now is, in my opinion, and I'm sure there's, now is like the perfect time for their culture to rise.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, John. And as we wrap up our conversation here, my friend, I love to kind of have you summon up or summarize a little bit. If there was, you know, you did a call to action to some of the practitioners, whether it's doctors and nurse and folks like that. Do you have the call to action to, the the people at large, the people who are not Indigenous people? What do you say to them as it relates to this vision and this journey that you're going on here, my friend?
Yeah, so the greatest discovery you will ever find, and probably the biggest challenge most people have, if not humanity, is the day that you are put in a position to bet on yourself and to finally believe in yourself that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. That's
Yeah.
kind of the one thing I realized, you know, I've learned to lose often. I bet on myself many times. I've lost. I'm used to losing. Like
Hmm.
if I were to summarize the last 15 years of my life, I learned to live on my knees with dignity.
Hmm. You know that is so powerful of a phrase that I'm going to kind of pause on that there. Live in your knees with dignity is a very powerful phrase, and obviously it comes from experience. Anybody who, well, that there's in Vietnamese, there's a song that speaks about that. There's a song about the father's love, right? And there's a certain phrase that basically the father is advising or uh, mentoring the son, and he says, you know, the similar kind of message. I think that message is very timeless, right? Because at times, all of us will find ourselves on our knees. Love it or hate it, we will all be there, and I've been there
Yeah.
myself. And so the question is, can we be there and still have our dignity and be proud of being a human being and so on? And then the other question I would ask is, can we treat those people who are on their knees with dignity, right? Yes, to be on your knees and have the dignity, but also the ask is for others, people who witness people who are on their knees in that part of life, and do we give them the dignity of the humanity that is of all of us? All of us are in that humanity, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Well, you know what? I'm so delighted to speak to you today and have the ability to kind of hear your thoughts around this somewhat surprising and very exciting and more importantly, very worthwhile journey for you and for the people that you're working with and the people that you're serving. And I can't stress enough, when somebody says to me that they believe they found their life's work ahead of them, they believe this would be the last sort of career that they're going to kind of live on earth with this mission in focus. I'm very happy for them, and so I'm very happy for you in discovering that. And best of luck and all best wishes, my friend, for this journey, which, as you said before, is not easy and it's not all rosy and it's not all exciting. There will be all kinds of challenges that you've probably already encountered, but more power to you, my friend.
Thanks so much, June. I really appreciate you reaching out to do this interview.
Yeah, yeah. So, folks, as you've heard from John, again, if I could summarize it again, just take good care of one another, regardless of what circumstance we each find ourselves in. Make sure we treat each other with dignity and respect, and help where we can. And if you can't help, maybe find some other people who might be able to help. And certainly, just be good humans, right? And I'm so delighted that John has found that next vision that will take him into what I would call leaving a legacy that's very powerful for him and I dare say him and his family and him and really the people that he touches. So thank you so much, John. And I'll let you get back to your meetings that you need to go to, but much appreciated, my friend.
Awesome, Dune. Have a great day. See ya.
You too. Yeah.